Hi, I'm Megan. Thanks for joining me for another video. I can't believe that it's Friday already and it's time for another episode of Friday Sews. To be honest, I haven't gotten up to a whole lot this week, sewing related. It's been pretty busy with work and with my family, but I still wanted to sit down and have a bit of a chat because I really am enjoying connecting with you in the comments or on Instagram. And I am having, I always say, I'm having a ton of fun doing this. So just thought I'd pop by and say hello and share a couple of the things that I got up to this week and some of the things I'm hoping to do next week. So first, I'm going to share with you this little mug that I made. So last summer, I was looking for things to do. So like summer 2020, the world was weird. We were sort of coming out of lockdown here in Alberta, so businesses were open, but childcare centers weren't for like day camps and things like that. So I was looking for things to do with my daughter, and one of the things that we did was go to the pottery studio that's in our neighborhood and did that, like painting ceramics, and it costs like a fortune, but can you really put a price on quality time? You can. Anyway, painting is not one of my skills or passions, but Emma made a Spiderman mug, and I made this giant mug that has my interpretation of sewing pins on it. So it is full of hot tea, and I definitely need a bit of a boost today. So my serger is still in the shop for repair, and I sent them a little bit of a nudge, and they said they're working on about a 3-week approximate backlog. So I think it'll probably be a week or two more before I get it back, which makes me a little bit sad because I do have lots to work on, and I've signed up for a couple pattern tests, and I would really like to be able to use it. I don't need it. Like, you don't need a serger or a cover stitch. You can do everything on your sewing machine, and I love my sewing machine, so it's fine. Carry along, but there's lots of things that I would like to do with it, sort of with the finishing elements, the top stitching, hemming, binding, that type of thing. Plus, I miss it. I want to play with it. It's my favorite toy. So looking forward to having it back soon, and decided to opt to have it fully serviced. So I don't know if I got, do you know when you take your car for service and they always try to sell you the filter for the air intake or whatever? And I remember when I bought my car the first time, my dad was like, never buy the filter. They just are trying to sell you a filter. They're just trying to make money. Well, that's fine. That's their job. So never in my life have I ever opted to replace the cabin filter when presented to me. And then we've leased a new car, and my husband's taken over car maintenance, and I'm pretty sure he does it every time, but whatever. So I wasn't sure if this was a car filter situation where I was being sold a bit of a line or not, but they recommended that because the machine is within its first year of service, like I bought it secondhand, but it was purchased from the retailer in March of last year, that first year or 2 years of the machine's serviceable life are pretty critical at that point to have it serviced professionally and thoroughly in case there are any issues. The warranty isn't valid anymore because it didn't transfer, but you know, it was a good point. So I would like to use this machine for a long time, and I think it's probably a good idea to have it professionally serviced, and then I can do maintenance at home and clean it and oil it, all that. But if there's anything wrong with it, they'll catch it, I hope. So yeah, looking forward to having it back. On Sunday, I went for a bit of a mummy alone time trip down to the bookstore, picked up a sewing magazine. I picked up Simply Sewing, and it's an old issue. Like, we're always a couple months behind in Canada, and I'm not even sure that the patterns included that I actually fit into their size range, but it was something nice to look through, and I really needed a bit of a boost that day. The other thing I did was I stopped at Michael's, and I picked up the Michael's in Canada has a really limited selection of fabric. They sell quilting cotton, some flannel, and then some costume stuff. And this is reasonably new, like in the last couple of years. But they had this Trains flannel that I picked up for my son. I've washed it, and like as I suspected, the red did run a bit, so it's got a bit of a pink hue to it. I even used a color catcher, but there's only so much you can do. But it's just for some pajamas. So if you watched my kids pajama video, you'll see the pajamas that I prefer to make for the kiddos with flannel. And so I think I'll whip up a quick pair of those. But again, I'll wait till my serger's back to do that so that I can just finish the seams and construct it all at one go. But Logan is thrilled. He loves trains, and he loves anything that goes, and he keeps asking to wear the train pajamas, And I had to explain to him that Mommy hasn't made them yet, so it's just like a train blanket right now. Something else I've been doing is thinking about the woven top that I want to make. So last week I showed you a pattern that I had bought called the Seychelles top from Is Josie. It has a bust dart, but otherwise is a pretty simple over the head, not too boxy, but not fitted woven top. It's like it's not a fitted shell bodice. And I do plan to make it. I have some fabric ready and I have the pattern printed out. And now I find myself sort of, I've seized, I've gone too far, I've thought about it too much, and now I'm nervous. So I haven't really fitted a lot of woven garments, and I think that now I have a more critical eye than I did the last time I made a woven dress. And my eye for fit is, my expectations are higher, and I'm not sure that my abilities meet that yet. So I'm sort of in that gap. And so I've been looking over some of the reference books that I have, and someone recommended that I watch Karina's video series from Lifting Pins and Needles about fitting woven tops. And so she's doing this weekly and has just started, but I think that will be super helpful. So I know that I might need to move the bust dart, but I don't know exactly where I need to move it to. I know that I might need to adjust sort of like shoulders. Like, do I have a round back or maybe a bit of a shoulder slope or a forward shoulder? But I don't know exactly like how to tell. So I'm just gonna make the top as drafted on the pattern. I'm gonna pick my size based on high bust and bust measurement, go from there. And then I'm gonna consult some of the guides I have to see what the garment will tell me. The other piece I'm not totally certain about, and maybe if you have more experience, if you could help me out, sort of leave me a comment down below, is this top has a sleeve, like it's got a pretty puff sleeve, but it's got a short sleeve or a long sleeve. And when I make the toile, do I need to put the sleeve on, or can I just do the bodice, like the body of the shirt, if I don't have to cut the sleeve out and construct it? I might save myself a little bit of time because I won't have enough fabric to do a full wearable toile of it. But if I can save a little bit of time and just do the bodice, will I be able to tell and diagnose the fit issues with sort of like the bust and shoulder is my most concern, sort of that round back, or do I need to do the whole thing? So if any of you know the answer to that, if you could leave a comment or message me on Instagram or whatever, I would really appreciate some advice. So I do have a pretty sizable collection of sewing books. I also have a really big collection of cooking books, and I think I don't often have a lot of time to cook or bake beyond like the day-to-day constant food preparation for my family, but I love to read cookbooks and sort of get inspired, and I think sewing books are pretty similar to me. Like I like to sit down and flip through it when I have 5 or 10 minutes. But anyway, so the three that I'm sort of thinking about looking through is this one's in my bedroom. So this is Barbara Emodi's Sew, the Garment Maker's Book of Knowledge, and it has more of a narrative through it. So it's kind of like a bit of a storytelling, and it's really enjoyable to read. I'm taking my time through it, but she also walks you through different dressmaking best practices and tips and tricks. So this was worth buying, or borrow it from your library. Quite often, if your public library doesn't have a book, you can request that they purchase it for you. And I've done that at our library with the Tilly and the Buttons books, and they purchased them, and I was able to borrow them, and I know they're in wide circulation. They're always out. So that's an option too if you have a good public library system. And I hope that you do, because libraries are super important. The other one I'm sort of looking at for fit is I bought this used a batch of used sewing books, and I might even have gotten them for free from someone off of Facebook who was just cleaning out their closet. And this is the Palmer and Pletch Fit for Real People. And this is a book that they've recently reprinted with updated illustrations and photos. And this is pretty dated, like you can tell, but the information within it is still exactly the same. So the Palmer and Pletch method, if I understand it correctly, is about tissue fitting on a garment. So making the fitting adjustments to the paper pattern before you sew a toile or a muslin. But I could be misinterpreting that. I've flipped through it a little bit, but what I'm hoping this will help me do is help me to understand how a measured flat pattern and the measurements of my body might, like how I can sort of figure some of that out before I start getting into it, especially as I start thinking about some of the Big Four patterns in my collection that I would like to try. I think this will be useful. There is someone locally who runs the Palmer and Pletch tissue fitting workshops, I spoke to her a couple of years ago at a sewing expo and was quite interested, but I was on mat leave, and I had super clingy babies. Like, they never took a bottle, they never took a soother, they never stayed with anybody. Even my son doesn't really like his dad all that much. He's a real mommy's baby. Now he loves his daycare. Like, they're very happy, well-adjusted kids. But when they were infants, it was really hard. I couldn't leave them for longer than 20 minutes or they'd scream. And that was tough. So if you're in that situation, my heart goes out to you. It does get better. If you're looking back on that situation and thinking like, oh, those were the days, my heart goes out to you. I feel it. But yeah, anyway, I couldn't take the workshop then COVID, but maybe in the coming years I'll be able to take a fitting workshop, because I think it would be fascinating, and I think it would really help me grow as a sewist. While I wait for my Coverstitch / serger to come back to me away from its little visit at the spa, I have also been reading this one. So this is a really well recommended book about cover stitch machines, and Joanna Lundstrom has a YouTube channel and a blog that's also got a ton of information. But this I bought 4 or 5 days after I brought my cover stitch home, and in addition to the manual, this is hugely helpful. So this is like a fantastic resource for cover stitch. Only started to sort of scrape the surface, but it's been really helpful. And so as I read about it, think about what I will be doing when I have the machine in front of me, it sort of helps me to stay motivated. So last night, my husband was doing his own thing, and I was had some time after we put the kids to bed that I was going to get working on a sewing project. But yesterday was not a great day. I haven't had a great week, to be honest. My daughter is back in quarantine again, which means she can't leave the apartment, which means I can't really leave the apartment, and she's home. It's spring break. She's off. She's bored. Work is demanding. It's been a lot. But anyway, I was having one of those days where it was best that I not be allowed to use sharp instruments or power tools, for my safety and the safety of everyone else. And plus, I always find that when I sew, when I'm angry or not in the best mood, my results are really bad. It helps if I'm calm. So I worked on something else instead. I taped together a few different patterns that I have in my queue, one for a test, and then one I taped together the timeout tank from Pattern Emporium, traced them off, graded them up a little bit, and then I took myself to bed and I read a book. And I would have loved to have used that time to sew, but just wasn't in the mood. So sometimes I think that's okay too. So I'm not sure I will have any time this weekend to sew. It's Easter, and we will be at home, not doing much. We'll be at home, not doing much of anything. So maybe I'll sneak in a little bit here and there. But I did finish my jumpsuit. I'm just waiting for the hook and eye to arrive. I had to order it online because I can't get to the fabric store before it closes during the week. And so I just need to sew that in, and then hopefully I will be able to film a review of the Pattern Emporium Sea Change jumpsuit. I'm so happy with it. Made a couple tweaks, so looking forward to sharing that with you. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. If it's a long weekend where you are, enjoy the time. If it's not, enjoy your time. And I will see you again soon.